from this point forward, canon will be used against you in a court of law. So be careful if you don't want to get sued. Don't say anything like something's a scam. Speaking of being sued, Odysee, the library-based YouTube platform, which we're also streaming to, by the way.
Yes, I
Uh,
do have a channel there, and it's very, very popular. I like it.
uh, do you know Rumble, the video channel that's like the most popular alternative to YouTube?
Is it a Russian website?
Oh no, it's a U.S. website or Canadian maybe. Um, anyway, Rumble they Odyssey tweeted something negative about Rumble, and now Rumble's threatening to sue them. And so I just think it's hilarious how like an alternative, like we're a free speech channel, man,
Yeah,
is
and
like
they can
trying
be
to sue.
criticized.
Yeah, and the one thing they were saying is they said that their traffic was like bot traffic, that because
Oh,
they showed the similar web statistics of like view stuff, and they got like 10 times the views as we have, but like because of the time frame that the people are on the site, it must be a bot that's just on there for like an average of 1.5 seconds just to count as a view. And so they
oh, I
basically
see.
accused them of bot traffic. And they just did this huge investment deal with like they merged Locals, which is another like Patreon type site, and they did this big like investment raise, and they used the site traffic as part of that. And so basically Odyssey just posted those stats and said they're probably using those stats to they're using bots to inflate their stats to mislead investors. And then they said, we're going to sue you. And then now, if you go to the front page of Odysee, and by the way, anyone listening, you can go to odyssey.com, ODYSEE.com. And then their front page, it says, Rumble's threatening to sue us, LOL. It literally just says it there. And so,
Well, in Brazil, it's also there's a
mhm.
Chinese YouTube service called Cost TV. We just call it Chinese.
Yeah, I've heard about
It's
that one.
it works incentivizing likes and comments and views. It pays more than YouTube. There is actually a good traffic there. We also
Hmm.
replicate our content over there. There's about 5,000 followers.
Hmm.
But it's pretty open, and they cannot create a bot system on this case, because if they do, they have to actually to issue more tokens and pay their viewers.
Hmm.
If they're actually inflating the numbers, they're actually going on a loss. So
Yeah, I really think, and I mean, I'm sure this is a much longer conversation at that point, but I'm pretty sure that this old model is going to be going away at some point, where it's just like, how many views do you have, and then advertisers want to pay you tons of money to get in front of those views. Like that, there's always going to be a free market for attention, but it's not going to be quite like that. It'll be more like, gamified in certain ways, a lot more transparent. And that's what I like about these transparent sites and things, is you can't just like move in and buy.
I saw a funny post on Twitter just today. Oh yeah, let me retweet here our talk. And it was saying how I was introduced to Bitcoin, and then there was like a picture of Andreas Antonopoulos in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and then how people introduced to Bitcoin today, and there was a picture of YouTubers making those silly faces, which I'm proud of them, because those drive click exactly, those drive clicks.
Yeah.
But at one point, so I'm like, if it's gonna drive a click, that is some kid, some idiot with $20 thinks he's gonna
Mm-hmm.
become a millionaire buying Shiba Inu. I don't want that audience. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of going more serious now. I'm trying to see myself as more of a serious YouTube. I have more gigs writing news for credible websites, and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm already done with that.
Yeah. It's definitely the same with me. But I never did the silly faces. That's probably why I have such a small
I did,
channel.
I did. I was
um,
told that was it worked, and it did work, but it's kind of empty.
yeah. It's funny because one of my second most viewed video of all time says, why does the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies go up? Where I sort of explain supply and demand and things like that. But it's still a price video, but there's no like mad gains. Oh my gosh. Like none of this nonsense on it. But I wonder how well this video is going to do, because part of the thing is like crypto bull market over. is in the title. So I wonder if people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, is it over? I want to see what these like two jackasses have to say." No offense, by the way.
No, I'm taking, man. I
Yeah.
got that all the time. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, we got a few people watching. That's probably good enough to get going with the intro. So let me just hit the intro and we'll just get this thing started. All right. Well, hey everyone. Thanks for watching. Happy Friday. I am joined by the one and only Rodrigo, as I should call Rodrix Digital.
Rodrix. It's a new name.
Rodrix.
I want to be
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, you just got to put a big X on your forehead now, Rodrix, just to remind people. And we had you on last time to talk about the Dash Investment Foundation, stuff like that. But now we're just much more casually talking about the news and things that's going on. And so just to remind everyone who's watching, obviously, please subscribe and like and stuff to crank up the algorithms. But also feel free to go to cointr.ee/the Desert Lakes and ask a question via the super chat. I'm so much more likely to answer a question if there's some coins behind it. Is you know how the world works. That's why we're all in this thing. Just kidding. So let's get on with this main thing though. Bull market, bear market. Where are we? So before we even go into like a headline thing, let's just talk about the general stuff. I mean, the markets have dipped, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, just wait until we're gonna have this double top blow off. It's gonna, December is gonna melt faces." I've heard that term a lot. Melt your face.
Melt face.
There's a lot of like melting face, and then it hasn't really melted a lot of faces. It's just like stuff hasn't done super well. Like the markets haven't been really bouncy right now. So, what is your personal opinion? Do you think that this is going to be? Do you think that the bull market is over? And if not, when do you think it is going to be over? And yeah, go for it.
Well, first of all, Joel, thanks for having me again, man. Always a
Mm-hmm.
pleasure to be here. First of all, we have to understand everybody on Twitter or Reddit, majority of the people do not use their real names.
Mm-hmm.
You always had your real name. I always had my real name. I just recently changed to Rodrix because there's another 5 YouTubers, Rodrigo Ambrissi. It's a very popular name.
Mm-hmm.
And people still know me as like, oh yeah, the Dash guy, right? Oh yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
know him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I needed to create an identity. I was told by
Yeah.
a girl that is doing some digital marketing for me and all that. So everybody on Twitter is just hiding behind a name, and they're posting those. He's got to melt your face. He's got to go 100x.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of Plan B and his stock to flow model, which did not
Mm-hmm.
work according to the model.
Yeah.
But he has another 2 or 3 models. But the stock to flow, at least, it's an interesting concept of a linear model
Mm-hmm.
where you calculate the amount of new assets that are entering a system and how many assets are circulating into that system. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty interesting. But reality is nobody knows. I mean, there's a lot of talk as well about not being able to see Bitcoin as 4-year cycles according to the halving. There's the
Yeah.
talk about hyper Bitcoinization. I never managed to sell at the peak. I'm always
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like, no, it's gotta go more, it's gotta go more. It's gone. It's gone like everybody else. The strategy is simple, you pay your bills and the rest you accumulate as much as you can. I don't do trading. I learned my lessons doing trading. I'm a long time hodler.
Yeah. Well, that's for sure. One thing I've noticed, by the way, is, and I did a tweet about this the other day, maybe yesterday, and a lot of people got pushed back because I just said that basically buying and holding is not going to be a viable crypto strategy in the long term. People were like, because they don't like it, but it was kind of part of a greater thought process of in the past, like buying and holding is obviously a good way if you have something that's stable, like let's just say a Bitcoin or something. Although even that's I wouldn't even count that stable.
Yeah.
But is a good way of like keeping your wealth from being destroyed by fiat. Sure. And anything other than that, or even including part of that, is still speculation. You're just slow trading, so to speak. You buy one, think it's going to go way up, and a lot of times, like the mad face melting gains. Like I think in the future, we might not be very far off from a thing where the big stable cryptos don't really go up that much in purchasing power every year. They're kind of like filled out. They're just sort of like coasting there. And so people are going to be just sitting and holding, Tone Vase told me to hold. And like, oh, Michael Saylor just says buy. And they're just holding. And it just, their wealth is holding. It's staying, but it's not dropping, but it's not going up either. And I think that in the future, the way people are going to be moving forward is by putting that money to work and not actually not just sitting on it. Like, let's just say lending out the liquidity for trading or doing explicit loans or staking or investing in a business. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of crypto businesses that are run as like DAOs. And so you can buy and stake governance tokens and that or whatever. And so but actively using it, not just holding it and just like a dragon on top of his gold kind of thing. I don't know if you kind of agree with that assessment.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. What's happening today? I mean, anybody that is underage, under 18, 21, whatever country you are, and you're not allowed to have any financial investments through a banking system,
Mm-hmm.
you can get $20 into any DeFi platform, either on Ethereum. Now Cardano has his Sunday swap coming up, or Binance Smart Chain, or Cosmos, or Avalanche. And anybody with $20 can start providing liquidity, borrow lands, do what do you call uh, um, leverage trading,
Mm-hmm.
100 times X, which is a pretty big gamble. This is 100%
Yeah.
gambling, in my opinion. But you can, with $20, just lend your money and borrow against your own collateral, and or provide liquidity. There's also the no loss lottery happening
Mm-hmm.
on DeFi, where basically all the fees of the transactions goes to the pool, and between turns everybody gets to win a prize, and you don't lose the amount of the bets you
Mm-hmm.
put it on. Now we have Torchain talking about providing liquidity without the possibility of getting liquidated if the price drops more than 80%, like Aave,
Mm-hmm.
or what do you call the other one, Compound. So there's so many, and this just proves one thing. Like, you've been crypto for a long time, I've been crypto for a long which is considered a long time, right? five
Yeah.
years right? It's considered like we're dinosaurs in crypto. But we eat crypto for
Mm-hmm.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is my spaceship slash basement behind the heater, right?
Yeah, of course.
where where I stay here 10 hours a day consuming crypto content, and yet I cannot follow what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It is the decentralization happening. We are in this business. We know a lot to know that we can't keep track of what's being created. It's out of control, which is good.
Yeah, and that's something that I think I think that people are trying to find stability in predictions, right? Everyone wants a profit. Oh, say magic stuff. And I have to I have to say people who heard about Bitcoin at all. People who heard about it all, it's an easy bet to make to go all in the early days, right? Because you're like, wow, you mean this is a decentralized financial system that can't be taken down, and then you might spend like a few months doing research to be like, is that really true? Like, how does it work? What are the prospects? How does this thing? And then, but like by the time I jumped in 2013, I heard about it maybe late 2012, early 2013. I started talking about it, and then by the mid, I started to use it. Like, that's not risky anymore. But the thing is, it's like you put it all into Bitcoin, and then like, oh, there are altcoins, but that's just like for playing. But now, like, I remember everyone was predicting based on last cycle. Oh, you know what? Like, Bitcoin's top on this next cycle is going to be, 178,000 USD, for example. Oh, it's like at least 100 grand, or then someone was saying like 85 was the super conservative, but like almost everyone was six figures. Now, this cycle compared to the last one, we've had more inflation in US dollar, but like fiat as well, like as a whole, than we had perhaps projected. But then also, like the Bitcoin top was so far, again, assuming it doesn't go kaboom, was like 60 something thousand, right?
Yeah. I mean, just recently now we had what last year Bitcoin was what
Mm-hmm.
it left to 8,000 to 19,000. Now we're 48, and everybody's complaining about the price.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, $48,000.
It's not that bad.
It's a lot of money. I remember
Mm-hmm.
when we were thinking about, oh, when Bitcoin gets to $10,000, gotta be historical. I don't even remember
Mm-hmm.
when Bitcoin got to $10,000.
Yeah, that was 2017, kind of midway through the market or midway through the bull
And then
market.
there was the joke, we'll never see Bitcoin at $10,000 again, and then we saw a year later.
Mm-hmm.
So and now we're 48, and some people are panicking and crying, and very soon we're not going to remember when Bitcoin reached this price.
Mm-hmm.
And as I tell, during events to my network, to my peers, it's not
Mm-hmm.
about the price, it's about the value. If you understand the value and what this is bringing and how everything is changing based
Mm-hmm.
on blockchain technology,
Yeah.
and the notion of trusting and verifying and
Mm-hmm.
quantity. Like there's the joke everywhere now, oh yeah, there's infinity quantities of reais or US dollars, because we never
Mm-hmm.
had this concept of having some type of currency that has only 21 millions. So
Yeah.
all the ideas are changing slowly, and every single region of the country of the planet is developing their own token ecosystem, DAO, DeFi, liquidity, and it's impossible to keep track. The main tokens, the main projects are growing and growing, and we have to keep it up with everything.
Yeah, it definitely. I think what we've seen is a lot of speculative growth in the past, where most of the real growth happened on Bitcoin. And then what we saw is starting with the 2017 era, the the real growth on Bitcoin, in my view, kind of stagnated. It might even have gone in reverse. And then there a bunch of other projects saw a little bit of growth, but mostly it was just a lot of speculation. But now today we're starting to see a lot of projects start to hit, like especially Ethereum, hit lots of actual growth as far as users are concerned and as far as usage is concerned, and the NFT boom that's getting a lot of like random people who aren't crypto people at all into it. And probably by like this bull market, while it's been, fun for a lot of people, to a lot of other people who had expectations of previous markets, it might seem a little disappointing, right? It's like, what, Bitcoin only did a 3x over previous highs and not like a 30x or or whatever it is,
Yeah,
and all these predictions. Of course, we could be really stupid in like 3 weeks, and then or 4 weeks, and the price goes insane and like, oh my gosh, yeah, we missed it. Oh, it might be something like that, but it seems like the giant pumping price thingies are going to become, this might just be the last time we've seen some of the old school cryptos really have these like moon days where it just goes wee. And it's probably going to see, I don't think the blockchain space is like market cap bull cycles are going to be as astronomical in the future, because first off, there's just only so much room to grow on that as long as it's
yeah.
still such a new industry. But also, it's probably, we will see astronomical growth in actual usage, though. That's the difference. Is I think that we're going to start to see more and more disappointing bull markets from the old perspective. But as far as like the actual usage, like blockchain transaction counts, and like the kind of, like, for example, let's just say you're a miner, right? Like you're, let's just take it at the very lowest level. If you're a miner and you're, the block reward you get, the value of that is probably going to not be going up very much in the future, at least not the way it used to. But the actual revenue for miners might be keep on going up because the technology gets more efficient, but then the fees you're starting to get are start to go way up. And same thing for validator nodes, same thing for stakers, same thing for liquidity providing, same thing for everything else pretty much. So yeah, it's gonna be, crypto's gonna grow exponentially, but as far as like the the casino, the get rich quick scheme kind of thing. I think the casino is starting to wind down.
Yeah, and what we have to understand as well is uh, today majority of people get into crypto. Once I got into crypto, a while
Mm-hmm.
back, the conversation was scalability, was centralization. People get into crypto today, they don't even know what this means. What is a DAO?
Mm-hmm.
They're just concerned of how much money they can put in, how much money they can make it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's a lot of boons in a lot of projects, because they have a lot of marketing through TikTok and
Mm-hmm.
Reddit and other platforms. I don't know if how healthy this is. We will have a
Mm-hmm.
correction at one point, like we had it from 2017 to 2019, from $20,000 to $3,000 Bitcoin. I don't believe this is the top yet. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
think another 3 to 6 months of growth, and we have to combine with traditional stock market this madness of pandemic or plandemic, or the
Mm-hmm.
state start trying to take over and stop people from moving. What is the real advantage? People think because of a piece of paper saying you have a vaccine, you gotta be able to walk or go do grocery shopping. There's a lot of variables to calculate, but
Mm-hmm.
what we know for sure is crypto is here to stay.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. The
Mm-hmm.
new the new bunch of people that are coming in now, their question is, I have $1,000, I have $1 million, I have $10 million. How much money can I make? What do you suggest to invest? Because
Mm-hmm.
people ask me all the time, what's your portfolio? What do you invest? When I do consulting jobs and things like this. And then I'm like, well, but there's the centralization and there's the DAO and they're like, oh no, I don't care about any of this. Just tell me which project to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the shallow investors, the dumb money that's coming in again. And at one point, the dumb money comes in, and then people take advantage. And then those dumb people, they grow, they learn, and then the
Mm-hmm.
next cycle, there's more dumb money come in, and hopefully the people that were dumb in the previous cycle knows a little bit about why should I invest in Shiba Inu. Well, maybe they have 1 quadrillion tokens for that thing to get
Mm-hmm.
to $1. Everybody that holds Ethereum needs to sell all the Ethereum and buy all in Shiba.
Mm-hmm.
Simple mathematical equations that they can solve. So that's the hype.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I also think is once people just think that crypto's going to take off, so they need to get in it, and which one's going to take them the highest. At some point, everyone's in crypto, and then what do you do? And that's one reason why whenever people try to tell me, like ask, like, oh, what should I buy? What should I do? First off, I don't know, and I'm terrible at this kind of stuff, and no one really is, but I'm especially terrible. But I definitely try to get people to use it, and once you become a crypto user, it really changes everything. And so, like, I remember a couple months ago, my friend and colleague Pozo was on the podcast, and he's talking about how he first got into crypto. His first coin he ever got was BitConnect back in 2017.
There we go. Yeah.
But like the first coin is BitConnect, and it's like, okay, who cares if he loses some money? He's still in crypto today, and he's working really hard. And he's like doing a bunch of stuff. He's accumulating all the Dash he can. He's spending Dash. He's getting his friends and neighbors to spend Dash. It's like the usage bug really caught on. It's just the gains. It doesn't matter as long as you get in the door, kind of. But let me just hit this related headline. But basically, Peter Brandt, who supposedly called the top on the last bull market, basically suggests that the double top pattern after losing 30% from its record 69,000 kind of indicates it's bear market time. So I don't know. I mean, probably. I don't know. Otherwise, we could see like a March thing. I've seen everyone's a genius predictor, and everyone predicted the top last time or whatever, or it's just like when people say, remember when Peter Schiff was a prophet because he predicted like the 2008 crisis or whatever, but then we also realized that while smart, he was right a lot because he just kept saying the market's going to crash, and he said it for like so long that eventually,
He
it's just
was
like
right. Bro,
by
yeah.
statistical probability, he was right eventually.
Well, the way I see, I just came back from El
Mm-hmm.
Salvador.
Yes.
and Salvador. I did two events back to back there. Both of them we had a dash booth present. And I mean, once you see the president of a country, even though it's a little country in the middle of nowhere, nobody knew where he was 6 months ago. Nobody could pronounce the name of the president. Today, you have a president tweeting at 3 in the morning from his cell phone. He just bought the dip with government's money. I mean, if you don't
It's
think
crazy.
if you don't think we are in the middle of a massive economical revolution, right?
Hmm.
You need to, I mean, change your prescription pills or something because you're not 100% awake. The
Yeah.
president of a country tweet 3 in the morning. He just bought the dip from his cell phone, 150 bitcoins using treasury money from his taxpayers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ethical problems I have with all that, and there's that old saying about what was it? I forget if it was Ronald Reagan or someone said that if the government was in charge of the desert within like 6 months, they'd have a sand shortage,
Yeah,
and like this, he might manage to lose a lot of money on crypto, which has historically been hard to do, especially. But the point is the point rests though, which is this is big, and everyone's kind of competing on this, and I could see nothing but opportunity. So, for example, this is a very slightly off crypto topic, just to illustrate the point. But Florida and Florida's on this on our headline list as well, by the way. But Florida and New Hampshire seem to be involved in a what someone on Facebook called a pissing contest with each other, trying to say which place is freer, which place has more freedom, which place, and it's crazy to see that kind of a thing where, um, the governor of New Hampshire co-authored an op-ed with the founder of the Free State Project, which is, a lot radical, libertarian, pro crypto kind of thing. And it's just like he just put his name on that to get out there and just say like I'm more pro freedom than you. And we're starting to see that with crypto, and maybe El Salvador is the first one, but I don't think that in practical terms, I'm pretty sure, and I'm sure you know better than me, but I'm pretty sure the El Salvador thing is a lot of like advertising, using the crypto name to say, "Hey, look at us, invest in our country." And there's
oh
other
yeah, yeah,
countries, yeah,
yeah, definitely. I mean, El Salvador has a very low economy. They have, I think, cocoa beans, a small quantity of coffee that they grow. They have
hmm,
no industry like a car industry or the white label industry that produces
yeah,
refrigerators, stove, ovens, appliances. They don't have their own money. It's been, I
hmm.
think, almost 20 years. Everything is dollarized. Funny thing is, for everybody from the US, you know how hard it is to find those around. You remember those? That's the $1 coin,
Long time ago,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I got a stack. They're all in El Salvador.
Hmm.
Everywhere you go to El Salvador to pay for anything, they'll give you money in coins, US $1 coins,
Hmm.
because they do a cash economy. 7 people out of 10 never had a bank account. They don't have their own money. They're dependable 100% on a dollarized economy. It's a small country. It's a prototype. It's a prototype. I hope it works.
Yeah, it's definitely. I've noticed this thing too with like, was it the mayor of Miami talking about, oh, we're gonna, I want to be paid in Bitcoin, take my salary, and then like the mayor of New York's like, no, I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah,
get
yeah,
paid, and then like it's starting to get to the point where it's it's cool enough, but that makes it easy to start pushing through favorable, I would say, regulations and circumstances and things like that, or just basically getting that favorable exposure behind that. And like, there's two bills going through the New Hampshire state legislature right now. One of them pertains to allowing banks to deal with and hold crypto, kind of like what Wyoming is doing. Remember, Wyoming started that thing off. And then another thing is basically exempting developers and people like that who create and run infrastructure for, let's just, I call it the DeFi law. Basically, to keep DeFi people in the state from getting in trouble by regulators and stuff. And so there's like two crypto specific bills going through the New Hampshire state legislature right now. And I think a lot of that is because you start to see Florida and Wyoming start to do more of this stuff. New Hampshire had one of the earlier laws, like many years ago, exempting businesses from having to do money transmitter laws when New York did the bit license thing. And so now it's just like the competition is going. And I love when people compete because then the end product ends up being higher. Like, for example, we were talking about the payments world, right? The crypto payments world. I mean, we have Bitcoin Cash, we got Dash, we got maybe Bitcoin SV, depending on how much they want to be viewed like that. Then we had Nano, and we have eCash, formerly ABC. They're all kind of trying to do this one, and I think I'm starting to see some cross disciplinary influence, so to speak. I'm starting to see they're starting to see what the other's doing and trying to replicate their successes. And same thing with the Ethereum killer world, right? We got Ethereum, and then we got, okay, Binance Smart Chain. Tron used to be a thing. I don't know if it is anymore, but then you got, Solana, and you got a bunch of other things, and they're all fighting for top spot. That's making them all better as a result. So I think it's going to be a pretty exciting time.
It's the protocol wars. It's the protocol wars. It's the hype, the money, the marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the decentralization. And it's just the beginning. 2017, how many coins we had? 5,000. Today there's over 500,000 if you count the
Mm-hmm.
tokens on DeFi, the pairs of liquidity providers and those
Mm-hmm.
farming pancakes, swaps, whatever. It's happening. And you mentioned about Solana as well. You sent
Yeah,
one
let's
of the
just go into
topics for
that.
the
Yeah.
DDoS attack.
Yeah, it remained on. So Solana had reportedly suffered a DDoS attack, which clogged up the network temporarily. Although the network apparently remained online, but the performance was hit. Like, it got clogged up, kind of like what I would remember as the Ethereum CryptoKitties and ICO. Remember when the whole network was basically unusable for a period of time because everything went through. Although in this case, it wasn't. That was just tons of usage. In this case, it seems to be like a DDoS attack, like an actual like overload. That's not just a bunch of customers and stuff. And as far as I'm aware, and I really have not done a ton of research into Solana, which is my mistake, but I believe that they don't really have transaction fees, or they don't have high transaction fees. At least, is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, it reminds me of the Nano case as well. A couple
Mm-hmm.
months ago. I don't know if it's been a couple years. I'm
Been
lost in
like six
time, man.
months, I think.
Six months ago, right? They had a high volume of transactions being sent to the network. Nano
Mm-hmm.
has, I think there was no fees at the time.
Yeah.
At one point, it created a cluster that nothing could go forward to be set to be registered on the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
With Solana now, it's the same thing. Once you have a network of computers that have been
Mm-hmm.
basically pointed to one direction to send as much information possible to that database. That database is gonna overflow, and it's not gonna have the capability to process all this as fast as possible. A
Mm-hmm.
couple months ago as well, Solana had to hit pause on the operation. There were a couple nodes who went to an agreement to pause the network, which gives concern. But what we were talking before, people are coming to guys like us that we've been in
Mm-hmm.
crypto for a while and say, hey, I'll pay you to help me set up a portfolio. And you start
Mm-hmm.
talking about centralization, decentralization, they don't care. They just
Mm-hmm.
want to know which one's going to make more money. I just want to throw my money right there. And those conversations are basically dying. They're fading. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see, besides Andreas Antonopoulos, SafeD, and one or two other guys, a new name in crypto on the DeFi space or that are talking heavily about, listen, the basics of blockchain decentralization scalability needs to be untouched, because
Mm-hmm.
if that part is not working, your project's not going to move forward.
Yeah, and I agree. The thing is, um, I think what we had in the early days, a lot of people discredit. I guess a lot of newer school don't give Bitcoin the proper credit for getting a lot of things 100% right in the beginning. And that's one reason why its value has been more stable than that of the other coins, is because of that kind of thing. Because there's a few things, like for example the decentralization offered by proof of work. Of course, once you have giant mining farms and stuff, it's a little harder on that, but at least for like the coin distribution, in the early days, all that kind of stuff definitely worked out. The uh, the way the economics play out with like the fees and stuff like that, to offer the proper incentives to scale and not have all these crazy problems. Of course, it's not a perfect system, but there's that base ground layer. And then like when China banned mining, and like mining just went elsewhere, and it didn't really affect the network that much, which is a really great sign that the system was working as intended. Now, of course, you have to evolve. You can't just be like, not throwing too much shade, but like a BSV person, and just say like, oh, Bitcoin was created the immaculate conception, it's perfect and it never changes. It's like, no, eventually you have to evolve and be able to do other things, because the free market is ruthless. It wants change. It wants better things. The problem is a lot of modern things, and I would call Solana as like a kind of heading off the modernization thing. Maybe Binance Smart Chain did it first, but as far as like, let's just not care about decentralization at all. Really, let's just like make it work, high throughput, whatever, do what everyone wants, and just step on the gas on that stuff. And I think that, like, to your point about talking about nano and stuff not having fees, oh, we'll do it feeless because people want feeless. It's like that also doesn't. It's not a centralization issue there, but it's a misunderstanding of economics issue there. And I think that probably the mass adoption boom in crypto is probably going to be headed by a lot of these more centralized projects. And at some point, I think that we're going to have like the hipster wave of like the old school cryptos start to come back, not because old technology is better, but because people realize that the new technology can be censored. It's not going to stay online and functioning as well, because you can DDoS it if it doesn't have a fee, for example. It's a lot easier to do that. Or just like we're going to see all these problems arising with poorly constructed systems without a strong decentralized foundation, an economically sound foundation. And then people are going to start to look back at like, oh, well, what about the old school stable ones that have proved that they can't be shut down? And at that point, I don't think we're just going to go straight back to the old school, but I think that the modern old school is what people will look for. Like, let's just say an Ethereum with proof of stake or whatever. Like, oh, it's working well. It's, it's old school, but it's working well. Or like, let's just say like a Zcash. And of course, I'm also hoping like a Dash type of thing too. But like things that have that old school underpinning, but are also grown up to do everything that modern people want, but in a decentralized way.
If we think in a way of an orchestrated government attack, and let's
Mm-hmm.
say that they design and they have all their supercomputers pointing to one direction to try to knock
Mm-hmm.
down Binance Smart Chain servers on Amazon, as people say there, most of the servers are there.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't take too many countries to do that if they reach to a point that they have over $1 trillion into their system. You
Yeah.
know, it's possible. I mean, we're not dreaming about this. We're not. The hypothesis of this idea is very. I think it's more and more
Real.
coming to happen, because at one point we gotta have chains with $1 trillion on it of value, or if not more. And if there's an orchestrated attack, then we'll see which project will remain and how important decentralization is.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Like, especially with, it's funny because I always kind of rolled my eyes a little bit at the Bitcoin maximalist kind of argument about everyone needs to run their own node in their own house and stuff like that. And it is a little silly to a certain extent. But then at the other side of it, it shouldn't be that everyone needs to, but it should be
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
you can do it if you wanted to. You can get a high enough bandwidth something. You get a machine that can handle the trend. Like, you can do it. And the problem is when you get to some of these super high throughput type things like Solana, where a node is insanely expensive to do. It's basically like there's no individual anywhere, or no like scrappy group of individuals that gets together and runs a Solana node in defiance of government orders. Like that's kind of out of the picture. It's just like if, for example, the U.S. says, if like let's just say 4 out of 5 Solana nodes, which is I'm being, oversimplistic just for the argument. Let's just say that 4 or 5 of the Solana nodes just are in the U.S. and then the U.S. says you can still operate, but if people are sending anything, for example, anything about convicted criminals, or let's just say like Julian Assange, like anyone's sharing anything that could like defend him or something, that we have to just filter those out or put a warning on them or something like that. Are they really going to say, no, we're going to shut down all our businesses and move to a different country? Like, no, they're going to keep doing it, but then they're going to filter it, right? It's just going to start working that way. It's not immediate like the government says, shut down the network, yes, boss. Like, no, they're like, add these little conditions, and they're probably going to do it. And then so goes the whole network. Whereas if you have
Yes,
something...
someone just wrote here, the US can
Yeah.
stop everything with a letter. Yeah, with a
Yeah.
piece of paper.
But not even stop, because if you stop, that's almost daring people to move outside of their reach. But no, if you do mess with them, you don't stop it. You just mess with them. You just say, well, you got to report, you got to be reporting this and that. You got to be cooperating with tax authorities. You got to, like, there's going to be little conditions in there, and then you're going to have a censorable network over time. That's just the way the whole internet has kind of gone to with like social media and things like that anyway. And the thing is, where you have something where just anyone can open up a node in any country, and even if it's like, let's just say, you have to spend a few $1,000s to run a node, as long as it's just like a $2,000 or $3,000 or something like that, or you can get together some friends and figure it out, then that's much more censorship resistant. It's like the swing all the way back and forth. It's not like Solana or Bitcoin maximalism. Like those aren't the only extremes. Like there should be a happy medium that still kind of works, and that should be studied. By the way, I think that we need explicit studies for how easy does it have to be to run infrastructure in order for this thing to meet a censorship resistant criteria. Like there should be academic research towards that. If there is some, and I'm an idiot, please,
Share.
link in the chat
Yeah.
or whatever, because I would love to read that stuff.
Well, that goes to the article you mentioned as well about Ripple,
Oh yeah.
and trying to convince miners to adopt proof of stake.
Mm-hmm.
This shows how important proof of work is to
Ripple
the
doesn't even use proof of
decentralization.
stake. What the hell?
What?
Ripple doesn't even use proof of stake. What the hell are they talking about?
Correct. But that there's money. It's money moving here and there. But it shows the importance of proof of work, and how the projects needs to maintain. I don't think a conversation like this will ever move to Bitcoin. Oh yeah, let's move Bitcoin to proof of stake very soon, because we're using too much electricity.
Yeah. Now I do favor hybrid models, because I think that for the same money you get a lot more security. And, like the Decred, the Dash, those kinds of models. The thing about proof of work though is right now the way it's being done is like old school, right? It's a little like industrial. It's a little, I think in the future when people rely on this kind of thing, for example, people will have miners that they turn on seasonally. Like I know there's seasonal miners up here in New Hampshire because it gets cold in the winter, right? It gets really cold outside, and some people just heat their houses with mining, or they've figured ways to do that, although they are quite noisy. And so once that kind of figures out, I can easily imagine just about every smart device, which will be almost every device, right? If your fridge can connect to Wi-Fi and stuff, like before you know it's going to be everything. Whenever there's excess electricity, we'll be able to be a miner in some case, contributing to proof of work. And then you just basically configure all your house's devices to mine this specific thing according to these specific rules. And then if there's like like someone's trying to do a fork, you decide which one to follow. You just go on your app and just say, direct my entire infrastructure to mine this. And it's just going to be much less of a mining farm based on like an industrial mining farm based thing that's just sucking up a bunch of electricity, but still extra electricity. I think it's going to run a lot more on like surplus things, especially if you have like a solar mining farm on your in your house. Like someone builds, like what if someone just builds a van, right? And they're on the road in their van house that's all covered with solar panels on the roof, and whenever their battery gets charged up to full, it instantly turns on their mining and just goes and starts mining,
And you
and then
generate profit of it, or
yeah.
value. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
one of the senators in Brazil as well has a bill. I actually never had a
Mm-hmm.
contact with this senator, but I do know the person behind Arthur Mining, Ray Nasser.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually a very good connection that we have in our network in Brazil. He's been in our channel several times.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, to put zero tax for green mining
Mm-hmm.
operations in Brazil. I don't know much about mining. I know today that for Brazil, for example, mining is a disaster. Maybe there's one or two kids or some guys mining on GPUs, mining some either Ethereum or some
Mm-hmm.
derivative of a cryptocurrency that you can still mine on GPUs, but not in a large scale or a large operation. They're probably getting some sort of a better discount for electricity if it's not even just a illegal connection. But
Mm-hmm.
electricity cost in Brazil is too much to run any type of mining operation, to the point that the largest miner we had there, he moved to Paraguay, I think in 2013 or 14, and he was
Mm-hmm.
the Rossello. He was the largest Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dash miner in Latin America. And last year, he sold all his mining farm operations in Paraguay to a Chinese group.
Hmm. Is that just because they made a good enough offer, or is it he just doesn't see a future in mining in South America?
No, he does. In South America, there is mining. There's a big future, especially in
Mm-hmm.
Paraguay. The very cheap electricity, which is
Mm-hmm.
generated by the hydroelectric power plant from Brazil, and they get
Yeah.
cheaper electricity than what Brazil gets. It's incredible what politicians manage to do. Um, but I don't know if he was tired or if he was a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But he had, I think, three farms, like three whole, what do you call, warehouses, like
Mm-hmm.
huge mining operations, running ASICs and GPUs there for quite a few years. And he helped a few other larger miners install shop in Paraguay as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that something that's interesting that I brought up on a show a little while ago. Um, I hear there's the Jack Dorsey wild card, right? Because Jack Dorsey, when he was running Twitter, started to become increasingly more libertarian and pro Bitcoin, at least BTC, in terms of his speech and stuff. And that kind of flew in the face of what his company was doing in a lot of ways. But then ever since he's exited, now we're like, oh, he's moving to work on crypto, and that might be part of it. One thing he mentioned was he wanted to work on open source mining hardware. And that's a big because any any cryptocurrency basically will have ASICs if it doesn't already, right? Just the way it trends. And a lot of it's not who can afford an ASIC, because anyone who wants to can buy some if they want to get into business, but it's just there seems to be a manufacturing bottleneck around like a few big companies that have figured out how to do it the right way. And if you don't have ASICs, it's not really going to be that effective. And so having I remember Dash's founder Evan Duffield was talking about working on open source masternode specific hardware, but open source hardware, I think, is going to be one of the next big things. So we have open source software, which is taken over the world. It's been a fantastic boon. But once you have open source hardware, then people can design either with their little 3D printer in their basement, some own little mining thing, or then every company out there can start to design whatever they're already building in a way to optimize for mining. So just whatever you buy could be a little bit more expensive, maybe, but then also have this mining component, etc. And then, it just kind of goes from there. It's so, I mean, I think that in the old days, as mentioned with like, China, and like if you have massive surplus electricity and cheap manufacturing around a few companies that build these kinds of things, it leads to mining centralization there. But like, there's lots of opportunities, for example, in Latin America to mine, even if electricity is not super cheap. It just depends on like how they figure how the market adapts. But like open source hardware might be a big part of that.
I can't wait to see those Middle Eastern countries realizing that they can burn oil and generate electricity to mine crypto in their countries.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are talking about the environment and how we have to save the planet,
Ooh, that's gonna be
and
crazy.
yeah, so we're not even to that stage. I think once
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin breaks the mental barrier of $100,000, and the entire planet realizes there's no turning back. This is what the global reserve currency, gold, cash, whatever they want to call, is crypto, is Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And then the race for mining, and of course, who has a lot of sources of energy, in this case, Middle East, Venezuela. Things are gonna get very, very interesting politically.
Yeah. Well, speaking of political, and this is a good news story to wrap up on, and then yeah, is I was talking earlier about states starting to compete over crypto, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has officially proposed that the state government allow businesses to pay state fees with cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. And yeah, on Thursday, apparently they released as part of his 2022-2023 budget proposal. And there's been little municipalities like in Ohio and places like that that have allowed people to pay like certain taxes in crypto in the past as an experiment and stuff. But like now they have like the Miami mayor jumping in big, and now you have the governor of Florida, who's one of the more um, popular and polarizing figures in U.S. politics today. But also just you have that, and you have like all the bills coming through the pipeline in New Hampshire. It's really, I don't know. It's just like the being able to live on crypto, like I've been trying to do for the last 6 years or whatever it's been. I think it's getting really close to. I think it's getting really close to being where a few people or anyone in the developed world at least with just a little bit of effort can start to do the same. Are you starting to get those same feelings?
Oh no, definitely. I mean, today is much easier for you to buy a
Mm-hmm.
gift card with crypto. Dash Direct
Oh
is
yeah.
one of the examples. Bitrefill is the major example. There was the other one, which I always had problems using. I don't like their system,
Hmm.
um,
Coin
for gift card.
cards.
E-gift,
Oh,
e-gifter.
e-gifter. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
still around.
e-gifter. Yeah, they're still around. They're very. I just don't like their system. Like, you have to get the points, and certain gift cards you cannot buy. You can only use cash. I'm like,
So you know what's funny about that? Um, this is something that Marshall let slip. I'm sure he must have told you guys about as well. Again, I don't know who mentioned what, but some of these companies that some of these gift card retailers, some of them have rules about they have conditions surrounding the resale of their gift cards. For example, things like Home Depot do not allow you to have a discount with it. They just say, well, even if you can make a profit and do a discount, they won't allow you to do it. Some of these retailers do not allow you to sell them for crypto explicitly. And it's kind of funny because like Dash Direct does not have, for example, Amazon and Walmart. Um, Now eGifter does, but those are two of the ones that they use these points. You need eGifter points, so it's like because they're kind of playing by the rules. But then you got Bitrefill, for example, has both of those. Although they've been out of stock of Amazon cards of Walmart cards for a while, and I'm pretty sure it's because of that, and that they were just saying like, oh, we're not going to tell you how we're going to use them, and they're using them against the terms, and then eventually
correct.
they just that's kind of what happened. That's just my speculation from all the pieces I've been able to plug together, but yeah, as far as I don't even know where I got on that thing, but about some places don't let you do gift card. Oh yeah, the points, the e-gifter points. That's why they did that. Little tangent on which
Yeah,
I
I,
just
I
started to
figure.
realize. Yeah.
I figure. And but today you have a lot of payment processors take crypto directly for gift cards, for
Mm-hmm.
airlines, for hotels, for food supermarkets in the US, in the Brazil, in Europe, in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa is a different game. They do everything through cell phones. The M-Pesa
Mm-hmm.
is something we saw growing from exchanging phone credits to being a whole currency.
Mm-hmm.
Each region's got to adapt to the best opportunity, and that's where the protocol wars comes in. Each
Mm-hmm.
region was got to use their own ecosystem, their own down, their own token, their own master node system or whatever. And but again, the giant, the king is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin going up, everything goes up. The rest, everybody else is always trying to catch up and come up with one idea here and there, and
Mm-hmm.
try to implement this in a specific location or specific area that needs or can solve that problem.
Yeah, that's for sure. So that wraps up what we had planned. Any other things you want to talk about right now?
So sorry, say that again. I was reading here the
Yeah.
BCH podcast. That's not far off. Someone wrote down.
Yeah. You
It's
just talking about.
Hilai. How are you, man?
Yeah, they're just talking about Pulse Chain, which I don't want to get into that. We could talk about Hex and Pulse Chain and all that forever and ever and ever until Richard Hart shows up into the chat and starts yelling at us. But let me just say that goes back down to the centralization versus decentralization debate. And uh, having a single address that someone controls is always a little bit of a red flag, but I won't do people's research for them. Let them go do that and let them comment on this channel in 3 years or something saying, yeah, look how wrong you were because I made a lot of money, or, you know how it goes. I mean, uh, I'm sure the same thing was done with BitConnect and stuff over time. But uh, so where could people find more about the stuff you do?
Well, I have my Twitter account. I don't tweet much because sometimes I think I might scare people of what I think of things that happening. But
Yeah.
I do retweet
I
a
scare people
lot.
on purpose.
I do retweet a lot. I do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
likes and stuff. But my social media is Rodrix Digital. We have also the dash channels in Portuguese in Brazil on Odysee, Cos TV, the Twitter, the Instagram, Telegram, our WhatsApp
Mm-hmm.
group, Telegram group, and all that. From El Salvador, I was there for 10 days, and I did put together a couple interviews. I interviewed 4 congressmen, the ambassador of El Salvador in the U.S. Did not get to
Mm-hmm.
talk to the president. I tried a lot, but I interviewed the top names in crypto in Latin America. There's also an interview there with Sensomal from Blockstream, and I'll put
Mm-hmm.
together the 4th episode of the Cryptocurrency Revolution series. And this time it's gonna be El Salvador and the cryptocurrency revolution.
Nice. Hey, do you have any transactions stuck in the Chivo wallet right now?
No, I think only El Salvadorians can download that wallet because you need some sort of a ID, some sort of a social
Mm-hmm.
security from the country. But I did try to pay with Light Network at KFC, but the transaction did not go through. And
Mm-hmm.
then we would had the food, and then we pay again, and then the transaction went through, and then the guy we had to call the manager, and he sent us the transaction after because we ended up paying twice. But I'm gonna put this together as a documentary format of my experience. Probably end of January, beginning of February, I'll be able to post it. The documentary will be in English. Some interviews are in Spanish, but I'll add subtitles in English.
So we got a Pozo in on Odyssey said, "Wait, KYC Bitcoin wallet? Yes, because it's run by the government.
Yes,
It's
KYC Bitcoin wallet. That's the wallet that the government put in place in order to do the airdrop of $30 to each citizen. But
mm-hmm.
there's nothing that stops anybody else to take the money and move to another wallet.
Well,
Uh,
except for transaction failures sometimes. Now, not to shill my own channel too much on my own channel, but if you just go back a couple of videos, I had an interview with Mark Falzone, who spent a lot of time in El Salvador, actually trying to use it, and it's a pretty interesting. He is a transaction to or from a Chivo wallet, not his obviously,
yeah,
but that's been stuck for like 3.5 months, and he noticed his support ticket was number 80,000 something or other.
yeah,
So pretty much there's been probably well over 100,000 different failures or whatever by the system so far. And so, yeah, I don't know, crazy times. So that's something. But yes, watch out for the documentary. It'll be interesting, as all of yours have been so far. And yes, and Pozo just said, and the Maxis were celebrating that. Yes,
Yeah.
and that's one thing. I'm just gonna like, get distracted for a second and talk about that. So, uh, this has been one of the more disappointing years for Bitcoin in my experience. While there have been a lot of cool things that people like, a lot of advancements, like, oh, this person, this government's adopting this stuff, like a lot of stuff has happened. Lightning wallets, some Lightning wallets are actually usable today, kind of usable. I mean, again, not compared to the user experience I'm used to, but then again, I'm spoiled by Dash and stuff. But it's not like there's been advancements, but it's all been overshadowed by a lot of just nonsense of like just Michael Saylor bought the dip and he said this, and then like and then volcano energy and stuff. And like the thing about El Salvador, there's so much cool about it, but there's so much like this crazy dictator man doing his crazy things over there, and there's so much dishonesty. Like millions of people are using Bitcoin in there. It's like, you mean millions of people downloaded a government issued app, KYC government issued app, so they could get 30 USD out of it, and that they paid for because the government taxed them. I'm sure wasted millions or to roll out this app to begin with, and it's just like, oh, so many people, like, it's just so much, excuse my French, but just bullshit trying to bump Bitcoin based on, like, there's so much honest stuff you could say that's like going well. You don't have to lose your credibility and just basically talk about the government of El Salvador basically getting financial control over its citizens much more than it ever has in its history, I would say, and just celebrate that as, oh, this is a victory for decentralization and stuff. It's like, I don't know, man.
Majority of the Uber drivers that I spoke with, they said that actually they used the money to pump gas because they had a discount on the gas station if you use the money to buy gas.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are getting educated. The talk is
Mm-hmm.
in town. Everybody from different levels and ages are talking about this Bitcoin thing in a country where majority of the people never had a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
So they're jumping like Africa jumped from the computer, the desktop computer, which
Mm-hmm.
they never had actually much access like US and Europe. They jumped straight to the tablet and cell phone accessing technology.
Yeah.
El Salvador is jumping from people not never having a bank account to having a Bitcoin wallet, full of problems, but it's
It's still
going.
something. Okay, so we got a super chat here from One Time. Hi, One Time. Hey, Joel and Rod. Maximus mainstream narrative saying crypto is property, not currency. Should crypto unapologetically be currency? Let's disrupt fiat. Why be shy? That almost seems directed to Michael Saylor, because he's the one who's just said, "Oh, it's not mine. No one's gonna be using it. You just use your card." But it's huge in the like, and I feel like to a certain extent some maxis have gone back on that, and now that there's like Lightning somewhere, they're like, oh, but it is digital cash. It's like, but you said it wasn't for years. But I mean, I agree. That's the only reason I was into crypto, is because I wanted money that I use every day that no one could stop, and that's peer-to-peer digital cash. Here I go, sounding like Roger Ver again. Bitcoin was supposed to work as peer-to-peer electronic cash, and it doesn't work like that anymore, but Bitcoin Cash still does. Like, I'm sounding like Roger again with that, but it's true. It's why we're all kind of here on this thing, right? So, I don't know. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, it's
Dinero digital.
dinero
Right.
digital, man. I think for us that we've been
Mm-hmm.
like, when I say, oh, I see some people on Twitter, I just bought the dip, and I'm like,
Okay.
you guys still have money? You
Yeah.
guys still have a bank account with paper? I have my stack from Venezuela here as a reminder. You guys
Yes.
still have paper?
Yes. It's funny about like,
So it's let the herd come in now and start buying and
mm-hmm.
start doing more things because
Mm-hmm.
whoever I like that phrase. Everybody will buy Bitcoin in their life, and people pay the price they deserve. Whoever read it and understood back then, bought it back then, who is reading and try to understand right now, it's gotta buy right now, and who's gotta save for later will have to buy later at current price. And we know
Mm-hmm.
there's no limit on the price going up on Bitcoin.
Yeah. I like to annoy maximalists on Twitter a lot because they just say like, "Oh, I'm buying the dip. If you don't buy a dip, you're diamond hand stuff." And I just say, "I didn't buy the dip." Or it says, "So like, well, how could I buy the dip? Yeah, conviction, laser eyes stuff." I'm like, "But with what? Like, I bought the dip in 2015 entirely. There's no
Exactly,
more dip to
exactly.
buy. Like it just there's nothing like I just I'm all in. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but buy like okay, well what about your income? But my income has been 100% crypto. That's the big plunge I took in the I guess I'm coming up on 6 years. It was in December of 2015. I stopped being paid in fiat. And so like okay, well that's all I got is crypto. What dip am I going to buy here? You know? And a lot of times they just like, "Oh, don't spend Bitcoin. That's too valuable. Spend other things." It's like, "Well, what else are you going to spend? Fiat? You still have fiat? Why the hell would you have fiat? Why would you keep
So
that shit around, you
so
know?"
more and more people
Yeah.
are learning, which crypto do you save for
Mhm.
long term, which crypto you can exchange fast to, in this example, Dash Direct, to buy a gift card in seconds and have a 5% discount
Mhm.
because there's no credit card fees involved. Which crypto
Mhm.
do you use to maybe do some stake and provide liquidity because you can earn 3%? And each individual will set up their own plan and use several of them. I don't think there'll be, Bitcoin. You see Bitcoin as a store of value, but Bitcoin is a store of value, but it's also a currency. You see the amount of Bitcoins that never move or people keep buying and taking offline, and you see a big amount of Bitcoin going up and down on daily transactions as well. So it's
Mhm.
both. You take anybody who has a degree from Harvard and try to ask them in economics, ask them to try to explain how is it possible for one asset to be a store of value and a currency at the same time. They don't they can't process this information, and that's what Bitcoin
Mhm.
is.
Well, I would say boomers can't process that information.
Yeah.
It's easier to talk to young people. Um, in fact, I got to shout out to Wendell. Oh, my little cousin, who the last time I saw him, he didn't know how to speak yet, and now he's like doing NFT launches and stuff. And just like, yep, all the kids these days are definitely primed for that. Well, this is probably a good time to wrap up the thing. Thanks a whole bunch for being on. I should let everyone know I will be traveling next week and probably won't be doing podcasts and stuff just because it's hard to do it live while doing that. There's a lot of stuff in the air still. So I may or may not do a pre-recorded something. But after that, the week after that, like right before Christmas, I will be doing one probably on the day before Christmas Eve. Just I'll put it back to a Thursday, and so yeah, look forward to that stuff. But yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for everything. I Now it's time. Usually this is only after the Dash podcast with a double podcast days, but there we will be doing a short little after party, which is kind of like this, except it's more than as many people as you want. It's not recorded. It's not published. It's just a little hangout. But in order to do that, you do have to go to the Dash Discord at staydashy.com, DASHY, and then start asking around. Or if you have a means of privately messaging me anywhere else, Twitter DMs, Telegram, wherever, just say, "Hey, can I get into this after party so we can chat?" And yeah, I'll let you in. So, yeah, thanks again, Rodrix, for being on.
Yes.
And yeah,
Thank you. I'll be at
I'm
the after
getting
party a little bit too.
yes. So I'll see you guys maybe not next week, but definitely in a couple weeks. See you guys.